Welcome to the January 27th meeting of the Franklin School Board. The meeting has been properly posted. Mr. Lewis is excused from tonight's board meeting. Ms. Larson, can we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Alexandrovich.
Here.
Mr. Sprague.
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky.
Here.
And Mr. Gamble.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Witkowski, second by Mr. Sprague. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, required public hearing for waiver of hours of public instruction. At this point, I'd like to ask our board clerk, Ms. Larson, to read the public hearing notice.
All right. Notice is hereby given that pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 118.38, Prin 1, Prin B, the Franklin Public School District will hold a public hearing regarding a request of waiver of required instructional hours for the 2021 school year due to the ongoing COVID-19 public health emergency. The public hearing will be held at the Education and Community Center, 8255 West Forest Hill Avenue, Franklin, Wisconsin, on the 27th day of January 2021 at 7 p.m.
We are in the public hearing for the community, and board members are asked to hold their comments until the agenda item. Dr. Miller will give us some information on the instructional waiver.
Okay. On September 1st, 2020, after months of careful planning and consideration, Franklin Public Schools reopened its doors to students for in-person learning. An important part of the reopening plan included bringing our students back to school in small numbers during that first week of school to explain and practice important safety protocols. Given our students had not been in person for learning since March 16, 2020, this time provided us the opportunity to build trust with our families and prepare our students for the routines of school. The Department of Public Instruction requires a minimum number of annual instructional hours of 437 for kindergarten, 1,050 for grades 1 through 6, and 1,137 for grades 7 through 12. While Franklin Public Schools has conducted school every day since September 1st, 2020, our initial start to school involved having students attend one of 4 scheduled school days. This has caused our high school students to fall approximately 30 hours below the 1,137 hours. Students at our elementary and middle school are on track to exceed the minimum number of annual instructional hours for this year. With the high school currently falling slightly below the minimum annual hours of instruction and the uncertainty of the pandemic for the remainder of the school year, the Board of Education is holding this public hearing in satisfaction of Wisconsin Statute 118.38 sub 1 sub B concerning requests for waivers and in compliance with Wisconsin Statute 118.38 sub 1 and sub 1M. Following this hearing, the board will vote to direct the administrator or my designee to apply on behalf of the board to the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction for a waiver of the requirements of Wisconsin Statute 121.02 sub 1 sub F and the administrative rules promulgated by the department regarding required instructional hours for students for the 2020-21 school year only due to the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Thank you. Would any community members like to provide comments? Okay. We also allowed comments by email. No one from the community emailed comments to me for the public hearing. We'll end the public hearing portion at 7:16 p.m. Item 4B, waiver of hours of instruction resolution. Does any board member have comments?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate everything that Dr. Miller and the directors have all done. I think we have done a fabulous job, and we are a role model for other districts around this state, the country.
Thank you.
Very well stated. Thank you. If there are no more comments, I would like to make a motion to direct the district administrator or her designee to apply on behalf of the board to the Office of the Superintendent for Public Instruction for the waiver of the requirements of Wisconsin Statute 121.021F and the administrative rules promulgated by the department regarding required instructional hours for students for the 2020-2021 school year only due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sapersky. Any further discussion?
So what, the state can deny it, or what is the risk factor here?
The state has actually suggested that we request the waiver,
Okay.
because otherwise we would be in violation of law. So they've requested that we do this if we fell behind.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
Dr. Miller, you stated that it was, there's something in there that says about COVID or only because of COVID. What does that mean in relation to like, snow days, for instance? I mean, I realize that we're going to fall underneath, so
Yeah.
do we need to make up snow days as needed? Or does this make it so that if we have 3 snow days or 4, I don't remember how many are in, but do we have to make those days up at the end of the year, or do we not have to with this waiver?
So that's a very good question. The way that this waiver is worded, it's due to the public health emergency, but that would contribute to the number of days we'd have available to us for snow days. So essentially, the waiver will allow us to fall below and not have any concerns, and that would include if we had snow days. Several more, hopefully not. So, Dr. Cohen, you've really helped with some of the background information on the particular waiver, so if you have anything to add, please do.
Yeah, the waiver application actually asks us to certify that we built snow days into our calendar. So it doesn't reference amount of time, but we have to certify that, yes, we had built a normal school calendar. We had accounted for snow days in that school calendar, but as a result of the pandemic, we fell below the hours, and that's the reason for the waiver.
And just to be clear, the high school requirement is much higher, which is why we are falling a bit behind. But at the elementary and middle school, we always well exceed what's required. So.
Any further discussion? Then all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Community comment period, comments, item 5. Participants under this agenda item must limit their statements to 3 minutes with a maximum of 15 minutes for any and all comment. If the community comment is related to an agenda item, the board may respond to that comment either at the end of community comment session or during the discussion of that agenda item. The board may not discuss a comment or question that does not relate to an agenda item per Board Policy Administrative Rules 8300. Would anyone like to make a community comment? Any comments? Item 6. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Larson,
Second?
second by Mr. Sprague. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, are there any school board announcements from the members? Hearing none. Item 8, school board calendar. There will be a regular Board of Education meeting on February 10th here at the ECC at 6 p.m. A regular Board of Education meeting on February 24th here at the ECC at 6 p.m. Item 9, District Administrator update from Dr. Miller.
Just a few updates this evening. Starting with COVID, our positive case rate remains low, and our 10-day quarantine period seems to be working out well so far. We're continuing to work with our health department to prepare to vaccinate employees. The Department of Health and Human Services, as of yesterday, said that that should start by March 1st. Hopefully sooner, but by March 1st. The State Assembly is meeting tomorrow, and it's possible that the mask order will be repealed. If that happens, we'll continue to wear masks at school. Our medical advisory team believes that our success in remaining in school in person relates to the enforcement consistently of our mitigation strategies, which includes wearing a mask. Safety is always very, very important to us, high priority, and our safety committee is doing a number of things to improve safety in our schools. One of them includes early this spring, members of the Franklin Police Department and the Fire Department together will be doing a walkthrough each of our schools with our building principals, and will be providing specific information on how to improve safety in their school. And then later in spring, the Franklin Fire Department will be responding to a fire drill with their fire trucks and providing feedback to our principals. And then finally, I'm pleased to announce that our Franklin High School Construction 2 students, in partnership with Tim O'Brien Homes, are completing their home build. And they're going to do a ribbon cutting on Saturday, February 6th at 10 a.m., and everyone's welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10, reports, presentations, and other school board business. Item A is open enrollment seats. Ms. Ellihausen.
Good evening. In your packet, you have the information related to the request for open enrollment seats. As you are aware, this is the timing of approval by law for open enrollment seats in the district. There are many variables that go into setting the number of seats for open enrollment, and the goal behind our open enrollment seats established is to help stabilize our enrollment overall throughout the system, looking at the total number of students we have in open enrollment across all the grades, and making sure that any open enrollment approved certainly resides within our approved class size policies and the implications as such. So in working with Mr. Milzer and Dr. Reuter, the seats that are established go across the grade levels where we do fall in line with those variables, and the requests that you see by grade level are in that table to the left of the document. And then, as again required by law, I work with Ms. Cody to establish the number of seats in the special education program. So tonight I will certainly see if you have any questions as then you move to approve those seats established. And for the audience's sake, we are requesting 68 open enrollment seats.
And this does take into consideration some growth for the resident population?
Yes,
What
but
would that
again,
be?
looking at our overall enrollment trends as well.
What are we assuming for a resident population growth?
Typically, we assume a 1% to 2% growth rate. But again, it's important we look at those lower primary numbers and make sure that we're balancing in accordance with the lower primary trend line that we have looked at for the past 3 years.
Did we lose students with, because of COVID, that went to a virtual or an online school that wasn't ours? And if so, do we expect to get those students back next year when it's more normal? And does that factor into this at all?
So yes, in the board library, you have access to the overall open enrollment data. And you would certainly see in that data, when you look at 2021, our net out did increase. We were around a 90, but on an average a 90 number, and that went to that 123 number that you saw there. And certainly when we look at the schools and take a look at where students went in that same report, you will see schools on there that are indeed virtual schools. As of today, our open enrollment coordinator has received several requests, and they're not really requests because they really just re-register with us. There are residents for some of those students to return back for next school year. So we are seeing that, yes. I can't say with any level of certainty that they all will return. Yes.
The 10 that you have for sixth grade, the middle school, is that a little, well, how do you explain that being available, that space, that many seats?
Yep, so that's a function of the fifth grade roll-up into sixth grade against the staffing levels that we have in the house model that allows us to take in more students. We have a smaller fifth grade number rolling up when you look at, hang on, I got lots of sheets. Oh, what happened here? What's going on, Mr. Moser? The current sixth grade, Mrs. Witkowski, sits at 370 students. The current fifth grade sits at 316 students. So we roll those students up, right, when we look at the projection for next year. We do see some increase in sixth grade from parochial students. We take that into consideration, and then against what our class size policy is, that allows us to have some level of seats there.
Because last year we had 14 seats at the fifth grade level. Now we have 10 seats at the sixth grade level, so we probably didn't fill those. So that
Correct.
space continues
Not all of them,
to roll forward.
correct.
It's not that it's a fabulous new middle school, that's just, people are,
Well, I'm certain that they'll take that into consideration.
Okay.
Yep.
thank you.
There most likely will be 10 who want those seats in sixth grade at that fabulous new middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, just from a understanding or an experience-based standpoint, when you move into the requests that we have, right, and you see that in that report that I referenced before, we have about 400 applications that come in. And so oftentimes they're for multiple students in one family. And so if we do have a family that might have a middle schooler and an elementary, and we can accommodate that by the seats in a year, that helps bring that family into the district as opposed to only approving one of their students or one of their children.
Are the 14 seats in speech and language in addition to the 68?
No, they're within the 68.
Okay. And how do we look for that? Do we look for that specifically to get kids in those spots?
It's a lottery-based system, so when we're moving through the applications in the process, if a child is identified with a speech and language disability, Ms. Cody sits with me, and then we look at placement of that child as they're within the lottery system. I hate to use them as a number because they're not a number, but when that student is identified, we can then make an accommodation with that disability only.
So if a student applied that had OT needs, and we have no open seats, then they would be ineligible for any open?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Unless they enrolled without expectations of OT? Is that?
Unless, I'm sorry, can you?
If a student had OT needs and you don't have any open seats, so they're ineligible, could
Correct.
they still say, I'm not going to take those services, but I still want to be here?
They could, but if they're identified as a child with a disability and they have an IEP already in place, that would, they'd be giving up quite a bit, like, as far as, like, the IEP services. So they would, I mean, ultimately have to make a choice then at that point. But if they've been identified already in that area, typically they wouldn't be accepted.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve the 68 open enrollment seats for the 2021-2022 school year, with additional seats to be added if space becomes available, and with 14 seats in the speech and language program.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sprague,
Second.
second by Ms. Sapersky. Any discussion?
You did say, what, more to be added? When did they get added? Or-
So that motion has been our motion.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to speak?
Mhm.
I wasn't sure. And what that means is when we are, because of the timing of open enrollment as well as the timing of our own resident registration, right? For example, especially when you think about 4K in kindergarten, as we're watching those numbers come in, if again, going back to your initial question, Mrs. Witkowski, that resident enrollment isn't where we project it to be, and we have additional open enrollment applications in that particular grade level, we are able to take and increase that number of seat in that area in order to, again, be fiscally responsible within the budgeted parameters we wanted for resident enrollment and open enrollment.
So these are minimums, kind of?
You could think of them that way, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Treasurer report is available in the Board Docs Library. Item 11, School Board Liaison Reports. Item A, Personnel and Policy, policy number 4090. Ms. Larson?
Yes, we only have one policy for today, tonight. It is policy 4090, Human Resources Records Retention. We are seeing this policy because it was last reviewed in the year of 2008. Our legal counsel has reviewed the policy and is not recommending any changes to this policy. So I'm looking for a motion to reconfirm Board Policy 4090, Human Resources Records Retention.
Do we have a motion to reconfirm the policy?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Witkowski,
Second.
second by Ms. Sapersky. Any discussion?
Does this accommodate electronic records? It doesn't say paper or whatever.
Some are in paper and some are electronic, so it is a combination, yes.
And it works?
I'm sorry, will you repeat that?
I mean, it works, you're able to administer this, given the,
Sure. Lifetime, just remember that.
Hmm.
So when you walk in the back, you'll understand why there's so many file cabinets.
okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Board liaison reports.
Okay, I did participate in our group, Southwest, Southeast, Wisconsin, what is it,
Just say SWSA.
SWSA. We've been kind of going through the state superintendent candidates, and I did share with you some of the materials if you need help making a decision. I think it gives you some perspective on what they see the state looks like in terms of the issues. So I think that'll be enlightening. And that's all I have, I think, for that.
Anyone else? Okay. Item C, school and community engagement reports.
Just a question, when can we go back in the schools? Ever?
And this one, don't have a whole lot of discussion with it with current situation.
Yeah,
Never? Okay.
not in the near future.
No parades or?
Okay. Item 12, at this time, I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, 1C, for district administrator self-evaluation presentation and review of administrator performance.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Larson,
Second.
second by Mr. Sprague. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Should be a roll call.
Oh, thank you. Good catch.
I just like to hear myself.
Yes.
Mr. Alexandrovich,
Yes.
Mr. Sprague,
Yes.
Mrs. Sapersky.
Yes.
I vote aye. Mr. Gamble
Aye.
and Mrs. Witkowski.
Aye.
We are in closed session.
We are in closed session at 7:37.
She'll hear us on the road. Okay, we're live.
So I'm looking for a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Larson, second by Mr. Sprague. Is that what I heard?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back in open session at 8:27. Item 13, school board meeting debriefing. Do any board members have comments about tonight's meeting? Hearing none. Item 14, future agenda items. Upcoming meetings, we'll have Friends of Franklin, we'll have the audit report, state convention reports, and principal action plan update for both Pleasant View and Southwood Glen Elementary. Item 15, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Witkowski,
Second.
second by Ms. Sapersky. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:27.
You did notice I didn't make any motions, so you didn't have to struggle with the last name?
Thank you, Alan.
Did you turn it off, Alan?
So how did you guys like the convention, the conference?
I thought there was
Judy.
some,
You didn't show me how to turn it off, and
I thought there was some really good,
Doesn't seem to
I
be
thought there
going
was
off.
some really good,
How'd you like the format? I mean, how did you think that was? You guys don't have much to compare to it.
I've never been to one before,